This is a 2019 Subaru WRX, and it's one of the last few models that Subaru still offer with a proper 6-speed manual. Now, the WRXs of the past have cemented the nameplate as somewhat of an icon in the motoring industry, from the spirit of rallying to appearing in literally every Hollywood blockbuster that has anything to do about cars. And chances are, if you're into cars yourself as a young child, you probably had one of these somewhere on your bedroom wall. However, times are changing and the WRX faces competition from manufacturers from all sides. So can it retain its status? Let's find out. It's important to note that whilst this model was released back in 2014, it's actually based off the GJ series Impreza, which is 7 years old. And that's compared to the much newer Ford Focus RS and Honda Civic Type R. Powering the WRX is a 2-litre FA20F series engine, and that produces 197 kilowatts of power and 350 newton meters of torque. And that is a direct injected twin-scroll turbo boxer 4-cylinder. And that sends power through a 6-speed manual or CVT automatic to all 4 wheels all of the time with symmetrical all-wheel drive. Our premium model has niceties such as electric heated sports seats, an electric sunroof, a premium Harman Kardon sound system, and inbuilt satellite navigation. And new for 2019 includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. When you step inside the WRX, that's where you begin to notice its age. Everything is modeled off the previous generation Impreza. And whilst the build quality is not bad and the build materials used are okay, there's a good mix of soft and hard plastics, and the design has been kept updated during the years, it is starting to look a little dated. In front of you is a 3-spoke sports steering wheel with a flat bottom, and it's leather wrapped and has contrasting red stitching. It feels great to hold in the hand. And on the left there's the controls for media, and on the right cruise control. There's also settings to toggle through the different menus on the multi-information display. And on the driver's door card, 4 power window switches, and all of them are 1-push automatic, power folding mirrors, and the door bins are large enough for standard size water bottles. Our power seats also have 2-person memory. To start the car, put your foot on the clutch and the brake and hit the engine start-stop button. Moving to the center dash, on top of the infotainment system, there's a little multi-information helper screen, and there's different menus. So right now there's the fuel economy and range. This shows what the symmetrical all-wheel drive system is doing, along with the angle of the car. This one's similar to before, but it has the acceleration gauge, which is pretty neat. Digital boost gauge, settings, and just the standard clock and date. WRX also has 3 cameras. There's the backup camera and also 2 at the front. One on the left wing to help you see the front left of the vehicle, and one facing forwards. And that obviously helps with parking and when you're pulling out at junctions when you can't see what's next to you. Pressing it again also just shows the front camera. Very useful. Moving down, this screen is all new for 2019. Our premium model gets a larger 7-inch screen, whilst the base models get the 6.5-inch unit, but they both have the latest generation of Subaru's Starlink infotainment system. It's now a lot more responsive, and finally, has digital radio as standard. Also, there's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to connect your compatible smartphone. And our model also gets inbuilt satellite navigation. The screen as well is capacitive, and it does respond relatively well. There is a bit of lag, but it's still okay compared to some other systems. Although the buttons to the left and the right hand side of the screen are capacitive, I'm really glad Subaru stuck with physical volume and tuning knobs. Makes it a breeze to use whilst driving, and also less distracting. Below that, controls for the dual-zone climate control, one for the driver, one for the front passenger. 1-push automatic, and the little helper screen also does climate. Automatic front and rear screen defogging. 12-volt power outlet, and also 2 fast charging 2.1 amp USB sockets and an auxiliary jack. The cubby is just big enough for my iPhone 8, so anything larger probably won't fit. And 6-speed gear stick. It's a little short shifter and it's quite fun to use, although it can be a tad notchy at certain times. I'll explain a little later when we're driving. To put into reverse, lift up, shift to the right, and that's where we also see the backup camera. With the reversing camera also is an enlarged view of the front left camera as well. One benefit of it being in a previous generation is that we have a proper manual handbrake, so I think a lot of people will appreciate that. Seat heaters, although on this 30-degree day we really don't need those. and two of the most basic cup holders that I've seen. There's no felt lining it, and there's no little adaptive thumbs, so your bottle will either fit or it will rattle. Small little cubby, big enough for your wallet, sunglasses, and some keys, and there's also an additional 12-volt power outlet. Above us, our model gets a sunroof, and the driver and front passenger vanity mirrors have lights as well. But do they extend? No. So as you can see, if you're tall like me and the sun's on the side, these are pretty much useless. Alright, chode test time. You know how this works. Big thick water bottle, let's really test out cabin storage. So does it fit on the driver's door card? No. Center cup holders? No. How about the center armrest? No, that only leaves the glove box. Yes. But that's 1 out of 4, that means 25%, so it's the first car to fail the auto review chode test. So let's go to the back seats and see if space is any better there. Space is typical for a mid-size sedan, so in other words, I don't fit. So for my 190 centimeter or 6'3" body frame, I've had to scooch the passenger seat forward so I've just enough knee room. I wouldn't be able to sit behind myself, and my head very much does hit the roof liner. So if you're my height and you're going to be spending a long amount of time in the car, you'd probably want the front seats. But if you're under 6 foot, you should be perfectly fine. There are bottle holders in the doors, and the seats themselves are very comfortable, and the leather is also perforated. There are also 2 additional cup holders and a foldable center armrest. And if you want to mount a child seat, there are 2 ISOFIX anchor points on each of the outboard seats. And there are also 2 map pockets, but there are no rear AC vents or rear USB ports. And this entire black theme of the cabin makes you feel a little bit hemmed in, and it's not helped by this protruding area for the sunroof. But I guess the whole black theme adds to the sporty factor. In the cargo area, space is listed at 460 litres, and that can easily swallow your whole week's shopping or 2 full-size suitcases. The space itself has a nice and wide opening, and the 2 gooseneck hinges are covered by the fabric. Underneath the floor, there is a space-saver spare wheel, although it could use 1 or 2 shopping bag hooks. If you want to load longer items, the rear seats fold in a 60-40 split, and they lay almost completely flat, but there is a bit of a hump between the boot floor and the rear seats. An important factor to consider when purchasing a new car is servicing costs, and Subaru offer a 3-year cap price servicing program on most of their cars, with services due every 6 months or 12,500 kilometers. And the total price over 3 years amounts to $2,356, with prices correct at the time of filming. So if you plan on purchasing one of these and having it serviced at the dealership, see if they can work out something into the purchase price to make the deal just a little bit better. Behind the wheel, the first thing that got my attention was the clutch. Finding the sweet spot for me took some time, and I had my fair share of poor and jerky shifts while leaving the dealership. I haven't managed to stall it yet, but the clutch is quite sensitive. Once you master the clutch, the WRX is great fun to drive. The steering is on the firmer side, which I think makes it even better to drive, and during corners the car stays flat, while dealing with bumps in a competent manner. It's not as comfortable as the new Civic Type R, but still acceptable. The 2-litre turbo boxer engine also does the 0 to 100 sprint in 6 seconds. Any irritations about the fidgety ride and the heavy steering melt away when you put your right foot down. The inclusion of all-wheel drive gives great confidence on the open road, even in poor weather conditions. And it is a sports car after all, so I'm not sure you'd want to use this as your daily commuter, as it's not that much fun in traffic. You could opt for the CVT gearbox, but please, if you can avoid it, stick with the 6-speed. Gear shifts are done mostly without issue, although the box can be a tad notchy at times. A more pronounced mechanical feel when shifting gears would help. You can really feel the engine come alive once you rev it over 3,000 RPM, and it sounds fantastic. It's not overly loud, but it's just enough to give you your kicks. And because it's only a 4-cylinder, put it in 5th gear and it quietens right down. Road and wind noise are kept at good levels. The low-profile tires don't emit quite as much roar as I was expecting, which is a good thing. Overall, the WRX proves that Subaru can still make a fun car. My recommendation would be the base 6-speed manual, and at a hair under 40 grand, it's not a bad deal either. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed to keep up with the latest videos.